Good morning. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Midtown. My name is Doug Moody. I'm one of the lead practitioners here, along with my sidekick, Judy Ailey. And I'd like to welcome everyone here. Feels like we got a little bit of a break from the dog days of summer outside, huh? I would just like to welcome everyone. And we have a very special guest, Rev Ursula Lentine, who is going to be giving our talk and lesson for today. And I have just a couple of opening announcements. First off, we've got our Prayer Works, which is the dial-in phone program with Reverend Angela Harmon. And we have flyers out front at the practitioner table if you want more information on that. We also have, starting September 10th, our Essential Ernest Holmes class. That'll be with Reverend Dr. Bob Dean on September 10th. And we also have flyers on the table, on the practitioner table out front regarding that. So if you're interested, stop by the practitioner's table. We have some fun people, practitioners hanging out there. They're there to help you with anything that you might have questions about. And that's pretty much it in terms of our announcements. I don't know about you guys, but this summer for me has been a little bit retrospective. There have been a lot of 50th anniversaries that we've marked in time over the last couple of months. In July, we had the 50th anniversary of the Apollo moon landing, which was quite exciting. And just last weekend, we actually had the celebration or the anniversary of the 50th anniversary of the Woodstock Music Festival that was held up in Bethel, New York, along with the 50th anniversary of Hurricane Camille making landfall on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. I was 7 years old when that happened, and luckily my grandparents sold their summer home there a month before the storm hit. So there were just a lot of things kind of marking time, and fast forward to the present 50 years later, and we still have a lot of issues that we're dealing with. We've got some gun violence and mass shootings. We've got a new arms race that seems to be building, and racial tensions have been stirred up. There's a lot of unsettledness out there in the world, it seems. But despite that, what I love about this teaching, this metaphysical teaching in the science of mind, is that we know when we see such things around us, we know to go within and get a better idea. And these times kind of reminded me of when I was a kid. I used to hear my parents lecture me on, you cannot become a hippie. But I kind of feel like we need some hippies and some flower children right here and now again. The world to me is screaming for love. I think we have children who are screaming for love and attention that they're maybe not getting in their homes. And maybe that's a possible source as to why we're experiencing some of this violence and unrest and gun violence in their streets and schools and public places. So there can never be too much love. One of my favorite quotes from Ernest Holmes is, "Love points the way, and law makes the way possible." And what that means is that the love starts here within each of our hearts. And if we want to see more love and more beauty out in the world, it has to start individually with each one of us. I got really excited when I learned that Reverend Ursula was going to be speaking on the particle in the wave this morning. I was originally supposed to be on platform 2 weeks ago, and I had a work conflict and scheduled for this weekend, so it all worked out in perfect divine order. And I found this video that I've been kind of chewing on for the last couple of weeks that I'd like to share with you. What I love about it is that I think it takes a bigger world view, and it talks about love, and it talks about overcoming all the challenges we have with this seemingly never-ending news cycle that we're bombarded with each and every day. And sometimes it's better and best to just kind of unplug and turn inward and remember that truth, peace, love, and understanding And it kind of all starts there, right? So I know many of you recognize or will recognize Daniel Namod. He's been actually a guest of our center a couple of times around 2002 when he really kind of moved on to the popular music scene here in our teaching. And so I call this Daniel Namod 2.0. What I love about it is that he's working with a rapper called Nemo Patel, and he's from India. And Nemo, I think, brings a bigger world picture to this music and kind of gives it a more current and upbeat presentation. So I hope you enjoy this, but I think the message is spot on, especially for today. When I first saw this video, it just resonated with me as being so powerful. But it all starts with each one of us. We have that choice each and every day. And when we let love resonate and choose love to resonate from our hearts, it radiates out into the rest of the world. And together, that's how we make it a better world. So always, always, always choose love. And now I'm going to ask you to join me in affirmative prayer. And you may get comfortable in your seats and just relax. You're in a safe place. I'm going to say this in the first person and ask you to accept that which resonates with you. So uncross your legs and arms. Let's be open and receptive. And let's know this together. There's only one power, one infinite intelligence, one cosmic something operating throughout this universe and operating through me and each person present right here, right now, and every day forward. I'm always one with this infinite power, this infinite source of good, because it is always within me and always within each. And in recognition of that, all of that power and creativity, all of that wisdom is always available for my recognition and use, no matter what circumstances or challenges find me. I know that all are one with this infinite source, right now and always. Today and every day forward, I know that I am blessed with infinite creative power that is God, and I use this power to co-create a life overflowing with love, with peace, with clarity and understanding, knowing that one with everyone on this planet and Mother Earth. I claim divine wisdom, divine right action, divine love, and courage to guide me and each person present, to radiate and feel and let this feeling of love go out into the world. I make that choice. I choose love, and I allow love to radiate from me out into the world. It's an infinite supply. I never have to worry about running out of it. It's always there because God is my infinite source and is the infinite source for all. And in doing this, each of us creates a ripple, creates an energy, creates an awareness of love and peace and clarity in the world. My mind and heart are open and receptive to today's lesson, knowing that there's something therein that is exactly what I need to hear right here and now. I claim this with divine wisdom for myself and everyone present. My heart, my mind, and my spirit are overflowing with love and gratitude for the opportunity to think and co-create my life that is overflowing with love. I am grateful for this teaching, for the center, and for the mindful consciousness within me and within every beautiful soul present. I joyfully release my word into the universal law, knowing it is done. I simply let it be so, and it is wonderful. And together we say, and so it is. And now we have a very special guest speaker, Rev Ursula Lentine. I think probably most of you know Ursula. She has been with our center here for a long time. She worked for so many years with our children and youth program, and she has expanded out into a practice of healing in her ministry, and we are most honored to have her with us here today.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So glad we're here together. And in this teaching, this metaphysical teaching, this spiritual teaching, we believe that we create our own reality through our perception. So as I see the world is how I experience the world. As I perceive the world is how I experience it. An angry person lives in an angry world, and a peaceful person lives in a peaceful world, and they can be next door neighbors doing the same job, but having completely different realities. That's where we come from. That is the premise of this teaching, this metaphysical teaching. We call Science of Mind, we call Centers for Spiritual Living, and our author of this teaching is Ernest Holmes. And he comes from a long line of metaphysicians, Thoreau, Emerson, all the way back into some of Plato and Aristotle's ideas. So we're here. We have not always been accepted in society, and people think we're a little weird, and that's okay with us. How did I come to this talk of the wave and the particle? So Reverend Bob said, hey, I have an opening, are you available? And I said, yes, of course. Okay. What are you going to talk about? Oh, I don't know yet. I'll let you know. So in my spiritual realm, I just say, what shall I talk about? And my ego does not come and say, oh, you could talk about this, and you could talk about this, you could talk about this. Because my ego is now tame. So it says, let's see. So I say, what shall I talk about? And then an idea pops in because I created a void for it to come in and say the wave and the particle. And my ego says, I haven't been thinking about the wave and the particle. How did you come up with the wave and the particle? Because there was no reference in my immediate experience for this wave and particle idea to drop in. So then my logical self says to my ego self, well, maybe you thought about having a talk in the wave and the particle a year ago, and now in the subconscious, it popped up because I created a space for it to land in. Or maybe it came from the super subconscious. Maybe an angel was driving by and saw this empty spot and said, oh, we need to be talking about wave and particle more often, and dropped that idea into my head. Maybe it was my higher soul in a vibratory frequency and saying, yeah, wave and particle, that would be appropriate for now. Drop. So all I have to do as a spiritual being is be receptive to what's happening, accept what is happening, non-resistance, non-resistance. So when we're in a place of openness and flow, things happen. So that's the wave, potentiality. So we're going to break it down, and when I was putting this together, I thought that let's look at the three different realities of consciousness that put the wave and the particle as a point of reference. So over here, just picture that there's a child with the baseball hat on sideways holding a ruler. And this is physics. Because physics says it is real as long as I can measure it. And then me as a spiritual person says, that's ridiculous. Why? Like you might as well just say, oh, no bad people will bother me if I wear blue. I mean, that's how much sense this makes to me. If I can measure it, it is real. So it's not only a ruler, it's a microscope, it's a mathematical equation, so on and so forth. Because in this mentality, in the physics realm of mentality, we like to think of things as solid. So if I can touch it, this floor that I'm standing on is solid. That's a reference. In physics, we need references. Just like a child thinks that the world revolves around them. Not a baby. A baby understands the spiritual reference of oneness. So when a baby's born, everything is fluid. They just got in from heaven, and they're like, hey, this is a cool party. I love you. You are a part of me. I am the sky. I am the birds. I am my little bunny rabbit. Like, everything's one. And then we get to the age of 2, and then everything becomes separate. So then it's all about me. My reference as a physician is my sensories. I have 5 sensories. I can feel, I can taste it, I can measure with my sensories. I can feel the heat. Oh, it's a real thing. So there's a heavy reference base. And in metaphysics, we're always talking about the breaking down of duality. It is not God is out there and I'm in here. Ego is in here and God is elsewhere, but God actually made ego, and God is not the man in the beard. God is energy. We call it energy. So physics is like, oh, I know what energy is. I study energy. I'm like, okay. Now, in the middle of physics and spirituality, physics and metaphysics, meta means beyond or above physics. So it's not dealing with the reference of the physical sensory realm. It's dealing with another reference of greater possibilities that has no form, but the potentiality, the wave, that can create into a particle, a form. So we're dealing from the possible to the real, where these physics are talking from the real to the possible, but not too possible, because they need the reference. They need the safety of that measuring tool. In between is the quantum physics. And they have references that are outside. So when they're talking to the physicist, they need references. They need something that they can talk about. So they say, well, I'm a quantum physicist, but I'm going to speak to you in terms of quantum mechanics. So that's the language I'm going to use so I can relate to you. And you already know what I'm talking about, so we're good. I have a very good friend. His name is Ramana Anna Raju. And he's from India. He was born in a small village, and he made his way, and he is now a nuclear physicist. So he and I get together, and we have these mind-blowing conversations that are just fantastic. I learn things, and he learns things, and very often he'll stop and he'll just go, Ursula, I just don't get it. And I've heard it before, and I'm like, really? What's going on? And he's like, I've studied for years. I've talked to scientists, I've talked to doctors, I go to conferences, and we talk about all of these problems that are unsolvable, and I have these conversations with you, and you're just like saying all the answers just like that. I don't get it. And I say, Ramana, I have studied too, but from the places I study, we keep things very, very simple. We don't call problems problems. We go from a purity and find out how does that purity work and how can we apply it in our individual lives. Because in the quantum physics and physics, if they don't know an answer, they call it a problem. And I'm like, problem has a negative frequency to it. The problem about problems is the word problem. So when he is working through some issues and things like that, he's using this reference and he's beginning to use this reference. So back to the wave and the particle. If you ask the physics people, hey, what is a wave and a particle? They say a wave is a vibration. So over here in our spiritual realm, we're very hippie, right? We're very like, hey man, it's all good, it's all one, it's all love. And we also have this lineage, and this metaphysical lineage also compares to the Hindu lineage, the Buddhist lineage, because we all have similar references and we come to similar conclusions. So there's definitely a giant movement here, but because of our immaturity as human beings, we need references. So the other piece of this is the languaging. How can we transfer from this reality, the kid with the ruler, to this reality, which is almost like a parent version. So it's not all about me in this quantum physics reality. It's about, I'm not going to be the only reference here, because as a parent, you are responsible, able to respond from a non-ego point of view, to take some authority and to take some leadership. So in science, they're saying, okay, this is good, but there's more. There's so many unanswered questions. What if we break down the walls, the references, the things that look solid, and think in a different way, approach in a different way? And we're like, yeah, good, you're catching up, keep it coming. So the wave and the particle. So if these two guys ask this kid, and then this one is the grandparents, right? The wisdom. Like they got it, they've been there, they've done that, and they just want things simple. Because in our wisdom, we just want to relax and enjoy life. Because a lot of this is taking up energy, attention, distraction. And here we just want to be loving, we want to hang out, we want to share, we want to wonder, we want to contemplate. So that's the 3 generations of this evolutionary process from human to spirit. Hey, everybody asks this physics. What is the wave and what is the particle? Well, a wave is a thing that goes like this. Okay, so this is energy, this is vibration, the new buzzword is frequency, this is how water works, this is how electricity works. This is just movement. This is movement. It doesn't have any form. Okay? Okay. Everyone's got the same language. What is particle? Well, particle is matter. What's matter? It's like a circle, and then there's dots inside. So the circle's like, you can draw a circle, and then there's dots. And the dots are the nucleus, and the protons, and the neutrons. Okay, and then what else is there? It's just like stuff. And then the spiritual is like, really? That's all you got? Because when I was little, I depended on science. I thought science was very real, and you don't question science, and whatever science says, that's it. Whatever math says, that's it. So now in my metaphysical mind, I'm like, we're in trouble if that's the reality. If that's all they got, that they can come up with stuff? Like, that's not good enough. And then the quantum physicists, calm down, they're partly right. Like they, just like the Russian dolls, right? So you have a doll, and then you can break it in half, and there's something else in there. And you're like, oh, look, it's another doll. And then they break it in half, and there's another one until they get to something solid. So just like they have done in the cellular structure, now the atomic structure, they keep breaking things down and getting better measuring tools to say what's in here, what's in here, what's in here, what's in here. So they're so excited that they're breaking this concept here into smaller, smaller, smaller. The quantum physics loves nano everything. They want not atomic, they want subatomic. So where this part of us says, no, the floor is real, my emotions are real, my experiences are real, this one says, yes, but let's go into the floor and discover what makes the floor the floor. Let's go into the micro version of every reality that we're experiencing and dig around in there and see how this works. Another reference point that we can have is like a deck of cards. So you can play Go Fish, you can play Crazy Eights, or you can play poker. It's the same deck of cards, but what game are you playing with that same deck of cards? So this is a simple game. This is a little more complex with different rules, and this one is, let's not even play cards. Let's just be. So when the quantum physicists go in and they start breaking down these Russian dolls, they say, well, these truths are kind of real, but there's different rules of the game. So when this part of us says it's stuff inside the cellular structure, inside the particle, this one says, yeah, it's gluon. And the spiritual guys, they're like, really? You're calling it gluon? And they're like, yeah, okay, what does gluon do? Well, it's energy. And we're like, yeah, we know. Everything's energy. So gluon has motion. There's wave within the particle. And then when the quantum physicists take a good look at what's in atomic cellular structure within the symbol of the atom, only 1% is actual matter. It's like the black outline of the edges. And Bruce Lipton, a metaphysician who's also a scientist, he's like, oh, snap. The membrane is the brain of the cell. The nucleus just happens to be in the middle, but it's just the middle. It's not the intelligence of the cell edges, because the edge of the cell is a smart one that says, hey, waste material, come on out. Hey, nutrients, come on in. So it has an intelligence, it's a decision maker. Earth is a form, and we are the membrane on this form, and we are the intelligent body of this form making decisions. Yeah, I know, we make a lot of poor decisions, but we're trying to make some good decisions. So we need to make really good decisions to compensate for the parts of us that aren't making very good decisions. So this intelligence that circles, that's the marker, the magic marker of this idea, is the thing that makes it so. Here, we take nothing and we turn it into something. Deepak Chopra talks about pure potentiality all the time. So in quantum and even regular physics, they say that the wave is potential energy and that matter is the actual form of energy. So when we ask the scientists, okay, what's your definition of energy? Because we know our definition is God. And God said, and then this one says, God? And we say, yeah, God. You can call it God. This one says, well, God is an old man with a beard. Have you measured that lately? Well, so we don't want to call it God because it confuses the mass consciousness that has physical references. So we call it energy. We call it love. We call it vibration, frequency, potentiality. So when I say to those two categories, what is energy? They can both agree that energy all breaks down into potential energy and kinetic energy. Potential energy or resting energy, meaning there's like a thing at the top of a cliff, and depending on how much height it is, how much weight it has, and how much force comes upon it from it to stop resting and go into motion. So if you think of a ball at the top of a cliff, someone pushes the ball and down it goes. That's potential energy moving into kinetic energy. And kinetic basically just means movement. And how it moves is based on how much resistance it has around it and how much force is opposing the resistance. So just like a pendulum, up here it is at rest. There's nothing going on, there's nothing changing it until something changes it, gravity, and it comes down, and here again, it's not doing anything if you could just slow time and space down, but then it keeps moving, and up here it's at rest again. So in our spiritual version, we're like, look, this is all energy, and it's all moving, whether it's staying still or not. It's all the same. It's all oneness. And that's why if I have an emotion, that's running around inside of me, I can say, you know what, that emotion of fear or anger or worry, overwhelm, it's just an emotion running its course. And if I can not take that emotion so seriously, call it reality, then I don't have to have reactions to this emotion. I don't have to apply force to control that emotion. I can just allow. One of the laws of spirituality is allow what is. So I just say, that's okay if something's bothering me. So I don't have to apply force over here, willpower, resistance, denial. I don't have to fight with anything. It's not a problem. So this is why it's all flow, it's all love, it's all acceptance. So that's the wave, the wave, the wave, the particle, and the particle. Now what is energy? So energy is potential if it's not moving, but in there it's vibrating. So if I looked in a microscope at metal, and I looked and I looked and I looked and I looked in that nano version, it's all these little cells going, they're moving. They're not solid, they're moving. That energy that we talk about is always moving. It's always changing. It can just recycle all the time. So if I can turn a negative thought into a positive thought in a breath. But here, you can't turn a piece of wood into a horse. But in our imagination, we can. And in form can act very quickly as well. I can turn nothing into something. I can say, imagine a green apple. And you can pick up a green apple and say, oh, there's a green apple. I see it. I just put an outline onto a thought. In energy world, we say thought forms, that a thought is a form. So I can say green apple, and I can see a green apple, and I can feel a green apple. So this kinetic energy, the energy that's in motion, is a kinetic energy that I can create. If there's no resistance around an idea, a concept, then it can stay fluid and it can turn into a form. So green apple, I see it, I imagine it, and I'm using inner references, right? So this guy uses outer references, but I'm using inner references. I'm using my imagination. Instead of feeling on my skin, I'm feeling emotionally. I can say, ooh, I like green apples. And I can get excited and I can cause creativity to come in and start kinetic energy around green apple. Ooh, green apple. Can't wait to get a green apple. How can I get a green apple? I could go to the store, green apple, green apple, green apple, green apple. And I can just think about green apple, and sure enough, many of you have experienced it, a green apple will appear in my reality within a matter of days. I had what are they called? Feng Shui guy come and say, oh, you need a round carpet right here. I'm like, round carpet? Can't be square, can't be rectangle, must be round. I'm like, okay, round carpet. So my ego went to the internet and looked up round carpet for 3 hours, over a couple of days. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't find the right perfect round carpet. And I'm like, duh, because your ego's in charge right now. Why don't you hand it over to your spiritual self? I'm like, oh yeah, duh, what a great idea. Okay, universe. So I scripted, thank you, Joyce Reynolds, and scripting is writing, putting into form from nothing to something, and I can write how I want it to be now. So instead of a reality of oh, I don't have a round table, no, I'm not going to write about what I don't have. I'm going to write about what I am creating. So I have a round rug, it's perfect, it's the right measurement, it's the right design, it matches all the colors in the scheme. I love this round, so I'm putting kinetic energy behind it, emotion, desire, excitement, and I just leave it alone. Within days, My friend drove up in her truck and she's like, hey, I got this extra carpet here. I was just wondering if you would like it or not. I'm like, is that a round rug? She's like, sure enough. And of course, it's the perfect size, the perfect color, it has the perfect design. So that's how we can move from nothing to something and bring it into opposite of something to an explanatory thing. So physics is about explaining things. Quantum physics is about understanding things from a whole nother level. And metaphysics is about creating a new reality from nothing to something. Now let's look at E equals mc squared. E is energy, potential kinetic, equals the same as, and they broke it down. In my studies, they have a longer version, but they kind of watered it down for these guys. So mass, which is a bunch of particles, little tiny, teeny, weeny, 1% form, 99% energy, and it's just smushed together, and that's what mass is. So mass is basically more energy with an outline around it, times the speed of light squared. Speed of light? Who's talking about the speed of light? The kid in the ruler's like, I need references. I need time and space. And quantum physics is like, time and space doesn't really exist. And we're like, we know. So energy is equal to energy with an outline around it times the speed of light squared, which the speed of light is a reference, that's a construct. So it's like God equals God with an outline times God as a reference. So you see, everything that we're doing is a creative force. We are creating it all. This guy is creating with his references. This guy is starting to create by seeing different possibilities and potentialities. And this guy is creating in a world from love, from the universe, listening to the universe to educate us rather than our references, our childlike references around. So that's how we sum up these ideas of what is the wave and the particle. In light, they say the wave and the particle are both there. In quantum physics, they say when I look at the particle, I can't see the wave, and when I look at the wave, I can't see the particle, but I know they're both one and the same. And the difference is the observer. So the Heisenberg principle is that if I observe something, I'm changing its behavior. So in here, when we go into our spiritual realm, we say, as I see it, it is so. So you see how the languages are starting to coexist. They're being more cohesive. So summing it up, love energy is energy. Energy, E equals mc squared, is God. And this guy might as well just break his ruler and throw it away because this world is starting to collapse. We see this world collapsing in ideas of science, religion, governments, socialization, family structures that are breaking. So we're seeing things break up more and more. We're trying to understand them from a different point of view, and we're using resource as our information. This is informing us, forming. We're getting formation from this reference. So this is the truth in my life, and I hope that this is the truth in your life, and so it is. Now we're going to do a brief affirmation, affirmative prayer. If you could unfold your body, and let's know this truth together. There is one pure potentiality, and this potentiality is me, is you. We have the potential to hate. We have the potential to love. We have the potential to love deeply. We have the potential to change our minds and our hearts about everything. Everything is energy. All three realities can agree on that. Which energy do you choose? We have the right and the power of choice. Let us choose from our heart. Let us choose from our wisest point of view. Let us choose out of possibilities that we can only see today. Let us choose the greatest choice, love. When anything is conflicting that, we say, that's okay. We receive it with non-resistance. We take that energy and change it into a better idea, a better expression. Love is all we need. Love is all there really is. And you can measure it. You can measure it in a hug. You can measure it in a kind word. You can measure it in patience and compassion with yourself and others. So let's all come together in a place of gratitude for our wisdom and our connection. Releasing this into the consciousness, and so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Ursula. What a fantastic talk. I wish I had you to explain that to me when I was taking physics. So everyone, now we come to the time in our service where we express our prosperity. And we express our prosperity for the continuance and gratitude for this center that nourishes and sustains us each and every week. So if you would, I'm going to ask you to recite our affirmation of prosperity with me, and would the ushers come down front, please? I live in a universe of abundance. As I freely and joyfully give, I join in the divine flow, and all that I share with life returns to me multiplied abundantly, and so it is. I just want to make everybody aware that we do have practitioners here. They're here for your help if you have something that you're facing and maybe you need a better idea to help push you forward. Maybe a new particle. As applying Ursula's talk, that's what we're here for. And would the practitioners present please stand up? Great. Thank you. We also have our practitioners table out front, and you can find lots more information, as I mentioned earlier, about classes that are going to be coming up, the Essential Ernest Holmes class, and I believe that's pretty much it.
I have a couple announcements.
Okay, Reverend Ursula.
Thank you. We have Twin Hearts meditation every Tuesday, so you're more than welcome to be there. Master Chokak Sui is one of my teachers, one of our spiritual teachers. He's the founder of modern Pranic Healing. And that's basically using the laws and principles that we learn in metaphysics applied. So he breaks it down and he puts it into application. We focus on healing, but once you understand how these rules work, you can move them into any area of your life. And I'll also be teaching a class on how you can become a pranic healer. So the Tuesday night meditation is a beautiful practice. We bless the planet with loving kindness using the laws and principles that we learn about here. And then if you want more information about the Pranic Healing class, how you can use laws and principles in an applied version of your life, come see me after the service.
Okay, great. So thank you. And I think that pretty much concludes our Sunday celebration. If you would please stand and join me in declaring our affirmation of life on the back of your program. I leave this place now knowing something better than I knew before. I go forth into the world with a heart full of love and a mind full of good sense. I look at the world in a greater way, knowing that I have within me everything I need to create the life I desire. I give thanks for this understanding and I am grateful for the spirit of life that lives through me. And so it is. Have a wonderful week, everyone.